there's a way to animate them at home and without a huge staff. This movie was put together with SourceFilmmaker. It's free from Valve Software. And if it looks like a video game, well, it does, since the tools are exactly the same. You can create whatever you want. You have the characters, you have the locations, you have the cameras, you have the stories.
Yes, as heard from the man, we animators have got the stories alright. And contrary to popular belief, SourceFilmmaker isn't a bad animation software. SourceFilmmaker isn't a terrible animation software. SourceFilmmaker is a software so excruciatingly painful that it makes for a better argument against the all-powerful knowing good god than Nietzsche could ever come up with. Its many errors have not been patched. It's infamous for crashing constantly, ridiculed by both Blender and Maya users alike, and yet I've spent over 20,000 hours with this software. Puts time into perspective, huh? I've spent like 6 hours at the gym last month. Today you and I shall deep dive into SFM itself, through the narrative device of the Iceberg, an essay structure that organizes the surface information and more esoteric knowledge of a certain topic by how deep it is down the iceberg itself. Basically, this video is like the Trojan horse, but instead of Odysseus giving Trojans the horse, it's me explaining SFM through an iceberg analogy, I suppose. Anyways, let's do this. Before moving on with the video, I want to wholeheartedly recommend a game you never heard of, especially from a YouTuber, Raid Shadow Legends. As you may have heard of from other content creators, Raid Shadow Legends is a turn-based RPG game where you engage your team of champions with AI enemies or players in a PvP arena, available on mobile and PC. The game mechanics are a mix of nostalgic RPG games from my childhood and unique elements. For its 3rd anniversary, Raid Shadow Legends released new bosses and champions, along with tools and weapons to customize your characters. And if adding new characters wasn't enough, last year Raid added a whole new faction, the Shadowkin, who are a tribe of warriors from the Far East, recently liberated from the reign of evil, but that doesn't mean they are good guys either. Another amazing addition to the game is the Doom Tower. This game mode introduced a whole world of new and terrifying bosses to slay. Sprawling over 120 levels, the Doom Tower brought exciting new challenges for seasoned players. So don't wait, because characters are available for a limited time only, like this Death Knight Skeleton Man. Everyone can get him, just log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and October 27th. You will get the ultimate Death Knight. Use the DK Rises promo code for a bunch of free items to instantly level your strongest champion all the way to level 50. And this month Raid just released a giant new feature, Awakening, and a brutal new dungeon, the Iron Twins Fortress. So before wrapping this enlightening topic, new players use my link or the QR code on the screen to get a free champion Tyrell and also this cool in-game loot. That will be claimed right here. Now, brevity is the soul of wit, the ad part of the video is over. So, let us begin. Even opening SFM itself can be quite intimidating, and please do not mind the fact that my SourceFilmmaker has got images of Ogi and Bingus loaded onto it. This is between me, God, and my psychiatrist. So, as soon as we put SourceFilmmaker into the full screen mode, like the proper human beings we are ready to explore the first tier of the iceberg. So the first part is maps, and without loading one you really cannot do any work, aside from crying, which is an essential part of using SFM. But even at the first stage of the iceberg it gets complicated, because when you load your map, it will be uncustomized and kind of generic looking, so you need to go to the SFM workshop and download an unlit map, or make it yourself. Then a pretty grueling process stands before you. You need to light the map all by yourself. So now let's get biblical, my friend. Let there be light, said HoovyTube and God. Weird coincidence, by the way. So after a while you stand before a pretty nice looking map and do you want to give up already? The next part is the models, the thing that you will spend most of your time animating. As you may know already, SFM is infamous for crashing, so definitely put SFM in the lowest settings possible to reduce the number of crashes to 1 per 37 seconds, maybe. And now let me be the internal voice in your head. HoovyTube, where can I get the models? Well, my friend, you can get them from the Valve games, you can also navigate through the Steam workshop, and also you can go through the SFM lab, navigating through bawdy content for SFM users who just want to sell Ferris commissions. 90% of SFM users. So if you unpack them correctly to the user mode folder, you can use them in SFM and set up your scene. Assuming you aren't a lazy no-good bum, you want to turn this into something like this. However, lighting is comprised from many stages, so it's not so simple, once again. Your adventure with cinematography begins with placing a white, bright, ugly light. My god, this video is such a mess. Anyways, with your light you can change its color, you can also adjust many other settings, you can make the light volumetric, which makes it look like some sort of fog. You can also apply a texture onto the light for some reason, I suppose, like add some leaves, I suppose, onto the light, some sort of texture kind of thing. Anyways. In the beginning, I probably should have mentioned the camera itself, the little prism by which all filmmaking is possible, and that includes SFM of course. I will delve into the camera in the later chapters of the Iceberg, however, one of the most important options of the camera is focus. For it, two sliders are responsible, focal distance and aperture. I hope I said it right. Let's say you want to guide the audience's eyes towards one object. Bang! There you go, looks fancy, eh? Let's move on. No comedic levity for this one. This time. The particles. Oh, the rabbit hole of the SFM software. Drives one to metaphysical madness. I will delve into it also later on extensively, but for now I just want to say that all of my most important particles will be shared with you in the description or the pinned comment. Explosions, fire, dust, impact particles, sparks and this weird particle, which I will not delve into, because it is not within the closest bounds of what I want to discuss. So, we float deeper down the iceberg. Let's call this floor the... I don't know, I'm making this up as I go along. So, let us begin with the clip editor. Totally intuitive function within SFM that doesn't break at all. There you place slugs and clips. Slugs are just empty black screen. Anyways, you can also place clips. They are basically shots, you can extend them, cut them, just like regular movie tape. I'm a silver-tongued devil. If I were a teacher who was supposed to distill a filmmaking process to clueless students, they would revolt against me like it's 1917. Alright, the next chapter is Motion Editor. It is basically one of the two ways by which you can animate in SourceFilmmaker. When you select a model, you can make simple twins in the Motion Editor. There is an inside joke between me and my friends called "Who Mambo Jumbo", which is perhaps the most genius thing I ever did, aside from hitting myself in the head when I was 4. Puppeteering Mambo Jumbo. That inside joke is called "Who Mambo Jumbo", and it's an animation process where you go into the Motion Editor, select a body part of a character, press space and puppeteer a character. This is too fast. This is too fast. And this is too perfect. While SFM plays, you basically move your mouse around and create motion, I suppose. It's fantastic for jiggle physics and subtle animation like breathing, talking or crying. The graph editor is how SFM animators with proverbial balls animate. As opposed to the motion editor, you can place keyframes, which you can easily revert back to and edit. It's fantastic for dynamic animations, dancing, walking, fighting. Most SFM animators block out their animations, by which I mean they place keyframes without splining them and then spline them when they are satisfied with the blocking. It's a useful process, sure, but I get the feeling that almost everyone uses it as a proxy to flex as a real animator. The procedurals. Procedurals are sliders that work within the bounds of the motion editor. Let's say you've got a finished animation, but you want to make it smoother. Well, use the smooth slider. And let's say you want to halve the amount of animation, or the movement. Well, use the half slider. And let's say you want to add jitter to your animation. Well, use the jitter slider. And let's say you want to add pace to your animation. Then go to my part. The next part is the scene hierarchy. So let's say you put 40 models and made a complete mess. So the scene hierarchy option comes in handy. When you enable it, you can properly organize your scene hierarchy. I suppose that establishing some order within the chaos being SFM itself, obviously, is essential to not lose your mind. Keep things tidy, I suppose. Just make sure to not create a hierarchy in which there is no prominent middle class, because the economic consequences of vast stratification may lead to societal turmoil that will serve as fertile ground for upheaval or the creation of a clergy class that shall halt development. What was I saying? Lenses. Well, lenses are sliders that adjust the zoom of the SFM camera. Let's say you are a fan of Tarantino. He does so-called crash zooms. You can do that in SFM, quite well in fact. Just grab onto the motion editor, take the camera and slide the 105mm slider to the right. Bam! You got yourself a crash zoom. Enjoy, because things are about to get harder. So, the first part is bake procedural bones. Sounds kind of intimidating, but it's just a tool that SFM users don't appear to know about. However, someone very desperate to animate jiggle physics will eventually find it. Certain SFM models with built-in jiggle physics can give you access to some hidden funky bones through utilities, bake procedural bones. Now, you can indulge in perversions, or animate hair, it's up to you. If the world is a stage, keep on playing. Okay, part 2 is constraints. Constraints relate to a pretty concealed option in SFM that allows you to copy animation from one rig to another. Well, let's say we animated a nice run cycle for Soldier, and we want to copy his animation to Scout. We try that and Scout will look like a Lovecraftian monstrosity. We need to use constraints. Through a pretty boring process that consists of dragging your mouse back and forth between two models in the animation set editor, you've got it! Now Scout's body rotation is locked to Soldier's. Okay, the next part is launch options. Launch options can be accessed through the Steam launcher. You can change the resolution of SFM, the screen size, the quality of textures. Personally, I just typed this into the launcher without much thought. SDK. The SDK launcher is used to enable models, textures, particles, sounds, and maps from other games. It can also be accessed through the Steam launcher. From it, you can also access the Hammer editor. However, if you value your sanity, refrain from doing that. That being said, before enabling the mods in SDK, you need to download the DLCs of each game you want to load the models from. Yeah, that's a thing. So we move even deeper down the iceberg. I don't know, maybe we can see those weird fish with this like glowing ball attached to their head that's meant to lure like smaller fish to eat. Well, instancing particle system. Instancing particle system is an option when selecting a generated particle. There, you can change pretty much everything. Color, size, texture, length of the particle, fade options. You can make the particle glow, bounce, float around. It requires a bit of time, and preferably some mental illness to figure it out. So, the next part is channel track group error. In the channel track group, through extending clips, you can manipulate for how long SFM will render and update a position of a model, light, or a particle. However, there's a catch. When you place a new model, its channel track group length will be that of the shot itself, with some 3 seconds added to the sides. So if you start animating, at some point the model will stop updating. When you realize that, you will obviously go into the channel track group, but it's too late, baby. The animation you made for the past 15 minutes is useless and bad.
But if Zoidberg fixes it, then perhaps GIFs?
SFM Physics Engine isn't within SFM itself, but it's one of the most useful options. If you're animating wood breaking, rubble exploding, you can't just animate everything individually. I mean, you can. I had been doing that for around 4 years. But then I found about SFM Physics Engine, which can simulate realistic physics onto any model with multiple bones. However, characters don't work with it well, like at all. The next part is quite intimidating. It's called render animated sprites or trails. So, render animated sprites or trails are two options within the particle creating process. You can imagine rendering animated sprites as movable PNG images that you can adjust to your liking.
Oh, jolly boy, that's a cool particle in SFM. I'm sure that part they got me out.
Then, if you're feeling pretty confident, you can emit some fire embers with the trails option, but it gets a bit more complicated. So, we arrived at the next chapter of the iceberg. So, the first part is render rope. Render ropes relates to SFM particles. Within TF2, they were used for many particles in the Halloween update, while in Left 4 Dead 2, They were used for guts being spilled. Why are they so tough to make though? Well, first of all, whenever you choose a texture for the raw particle that SFM doesn't find pleasing, it will choose to turn itself off. This particle works very well for piecing though. All of the animations which I've seen on YouTube that use this particular option, they were for either piecing or beer.
Get the fuck out of here!
So the next part is Valve Texture File Edit. So this one isn't within SFM itself, but it's a software that's pretty essential for editing textures in SFM. It works pretty well with Photoshop. Damn! Maybe the hackers were onto something. All SFM models operate within Valve texture files. VTFs. A fitting shortened form, I suppose. You can edit them with VTF Edit. So let's say you want to change your character's skin color. I said the skin color. You just need to launch VTF Edit, export the PNG file of the texture, adjust it to your liking in Photoshop or Paint. If you are a masochist, put it back into VTF Edit, and you are good to go. Your character looks brand new. So the next part is Source Water. There are many ways to create water in SourceFilmmaker. I will name all of them that I know of. The first method is using a map with water in it. Of course, it should be supported with some additional particles for splashes, threading, ripples, which I gave to you. The second method is creating a map with water in it. You can create rivers, complex water structures. I tried that once and my computer started howling like a wolf.
Well, now meet me at the bottom.
So I turned it off. The third method is placing water panels that can be found in the SFM workshop. It works very well, however if your camera dives underwater, it will break the illusion without some tinkering with additional water panels. The fourth method is the best one, and it's using my particles that I linked in the description or the pinned comment. I created my very own water panel, which is suitable for just about anything, can be manipulated through instancing the particle system to flow in any directions you please. Along with that I added some splash particles, a threading particle, which warps the models around and it looks incredibly realistic. Damn, why did my ancestors choose civilization? I would be better off as a monk. No SFM inside. Look how happy they are. And we are even deeper down the iceberg. Is this the last stage? Oh shit, it actually is the last stage. We are so deep down the iceberg that we are deeper than the actual Mariana Trench. We are, I don't know. Hammer and the skybox explosion. Hammer is a fantastic tool. It's a software that was created a while ago. By which I mean, I was still swimming in my dad's nutsack while the software was being created. It's broken, infamous and prone to breaking. Oh, I said breaking twice. However, plenty of insanely talented people created maps in it that are still enjoyed by players around the world. And they can be ported into SFM for your needs. I made a couple of maps for my different videos, however this part is called Hammer and the Skybox Explosion. Well, when creating a map, you need to adjust a skybox and lock the entire void so the map creation doesn't crash. But here's the catch. There's an object passing through it, crash. You accidentally moved one of the panels, crash. You ate your shaved hair and crash. Can we cut this? Can we cut this? Render blobs below 0.005. Blobs are another rabbit hole of the particle editor. They are both the particles fastest to make, while also being the source of most of my SFM crashes. One slider in SFM adjusts the quality of the blobs themselves. It's normally set to 1, I believe. The lower you go, the better the quality of it becomes. However, once you arrive at below 0.005, things start to get messy. On my new PC, which is incredibly fast, dropping this number below 0.0075 drops my FPS count to around 5. Below that, good luck using your PC for the next 5 minutes, before SFM crashes eventually. The BSP file appearance. BSP files are what everyone dreads, but at the same time they can save your ass sometimes. BSP files appear when many changes go down in your SFM session. They are basically backup files if you accidentally remove a couple of shots and close SFM saving it. However, I've got a whole story to tell with them. When I was 14, and working on the scout who never gave up, I didn't learn that you should do backups frequently. One day, I woke up, none of my SFM files worked. So I sent them all, practically crying, to my friend Mickey. Through a BSP file, I believe, he retrieved like 2 months of my work. I was about to give up on the video altogether. My life would be so different without it. BSP files saved my ass, but when they appear, double check if your SFM didn't commit seppuku. The .mdmp folder. MDMP files in SFM generate whenever your software crashes. I wish I could get access to my old PC and show you that gigantic folder with them. Every MDMP file stands for one crash, 5 minutes, 1 hour, maybe a day of your work lost, depending on how you manage SFM. Staring into the void that is the MDMP folder always put me in a strange melancholic mood. Was starting SFM all worth it? Will SFM be a small chapter in my life and then suddenly disappear from my consciousness? You stare at the abyss, and the abyss stares back at you. Brevity is the soul of wit, so let me wrap up this video nice and clean. I love SFM. All of my criticisms are rather for comedic levity. Every SFM user will relate to them on a deep level. I recommend the software highly. SFM is a tool just like a hammer. An actual hammer, not the hammer software which sucks ass. A normal hammer. You can nail a nail with it or smack yourself on the head with it. It is up to you.